Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Mark and Melissa de Jesus here. We are here.
Oh.
Ready to bring you some feedback, and we hope our discussion will help empower your healing and freedom journey. And I want to let you know about our website and some resources too, because if the materials and resources that are put out on a regular basis are a blessing to your life, go to markdejesus.com. And as of this broadcast, we have a wonderful resource. If you go to the top menu on the website, there is a link called Topics that you'll see up there. And it will bring you to a resource library page, which is filled with organized subjects and topics that are a part of the healing and freedom journey. More will be added. And as we develop resources, videos, blog posts, or materials, we'll add that to those pages so that as you're walking through your journey and you recognize, I've got this area in my life that I'm working through, you can go to the website and you can find what we currently have that could speak to those areas of your life. Also, please consider donating one time or become a regular supporter of the ministry work. It's greatly appreciated, and we look forward to just continuing to be a blessing to your healing and freedom journey. Mm-hmm. Today, we're going to do another question. And I think it's interesting because there's aspects of this that we could say we've worked through some of these things in our own life, but there's some observations I'd like to make. And it has to do with signs, symbols. When you're in your healing and freedom journey, you're looking for answers. You're looking for like making sense of what you're going through, right? And you want to feel that
definitive.
You want some clarity.
Right.
Yeah. And
everyone does.
Right.
And you want what you're doing to mean something.
Right. We want that like clarity, but a lot of times it's like we want super certainty.
Yes.
You know, we use words like confirmation. I need confirmation that, and God gave me confirmation. I need this.
Yeah.
And there's also an aspect too where we want to feel a sense of meaning in our pain and our struggle.
Right.
That this means something.
Right.
Right. I don't feel like I'm going through something just to go through something and my life doesn't matter. We want to have like meaning. That this journey it's not for nothing. Mm-hmm. So in that, we can be vulnerable to some distortions. We can be, our brokenness can get inflamed. I know I've had seasons of my life where discouragement increased, you know, because I was like, wow, if I failed, if I missed God, like what's going on here? How do I make sense of this? Well, along the way, you could be open to symbols or things or signs. Does this mean something? Does that mean something? I think God was using this. And where do we land in that? And I think what we'll try to do today is use an email that came in. We pray it'll be a blessing to this person's life and also to those listening and watching in your journey to kind of, how do we navigate through seasons of brokenness where we even feel desperate for healing and we're trying to make sense of what we're seeing and processing. And you'll see what I mean as we read through the email. Okay. Here we go. You ready? Hello, Mark. I've been watching your videos and I decided to contact you because I really need some help and insight and I don't know where else to turn. I've tried talking to my husband and my pastor, but haven't really gotten anywhere. I'm terrified. My pastor took a few days and prayed about it and he feels like God has given Romans 8 for me. Well, Romans 8 is fantastic, by the way. I spent years and years and years where my only devotion
was Romans 8.
Yes. It is, and I still think I only scratched the surface on it. With that in mind, she says, I keep seeing the word death everywhere. I keep being shown things like strokes, heart attacks, life insurance everywhere, randomly. TV shows, movies, ads about people dying, and so forth. I keep seeing everywhere, multiple times a day, 11 or 11:11, as in the time 11. 11 hour, 11th hour,
11th minute,
and 11th minute. Sorry, I had to take a second to get that out. And the number 23. I also have very strange dreams, and also those dreams sometimes talk about dying and dying young and things like that. I'm also trying to figure out what my
figure out. I think it's supposed to be figure out what my dreams mean.
Thank you. Appreciate that. To figure out what my dreams mean, and it scares me because once I open the Bible randomly and it opened up to a bad dream interpretation from Daniel. And the number 23, I feel like, is a bad sign because of Psalm 23. And I feel like God knows I connect the number 23 with the valley of death in Psalm 23. And he shows me it to let me know to watch out.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's clear to me you're in a place of deep longing, need for some healing, for some freedom. There's some pain in your life that's going on. It's very, very, very obvious before we even get further. Because I think later you talk about exhaustion and some desperation. We're going to get into that. And there's a lot of feelings here you have that I think a lot of people, if they're honest, could relate to.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm.
So what is very helpful for people to understand, though, is the arena of obsession and compulsion is very, very helpful in understanding things like this. Because when we have a disturbing, the nature of OCD is you have a disturbing topic that comes to you.
Correct.
And then it disturbs you. You either go into deep guilt, go into anxiety, a combination of both, you go into panic. So the thought becomes very disturbing. So then it becomes something that you could easily look for. And we have to understand that that's how our brain works. Like when you focus on something and you attach to it in some way, a fearful way, and there's a meaning to it, then you look for that everywhere you go.
Right. And you're gonna find it.
Right.
Right.
There is an aspect of seeking you will find in just that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
That
it's like when you go, gosh, I would really like a red car. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you only see red cars that brand of car.
Yep.
Our brains do that.
Correct.
Right.
And so if you want a certain hairstyle or you look out for that, whatever you're longing for, you look for that. So do I believe there's meaning in, like, for instance, numbers? Sure. I could certainly see that. And I think that many times what I hear from people is like, it means nothing, ignore it completely, or we end up obsessing about it. And then it's like, then you're getting into like numerology or like, what does this symbol mean? And I'm not an advocate of treating our healing and freedom journey, our walk with God. I'm not an advocate for treating it like Indiana Jones, looking for
the codes, the secret codes, and right.
Yeah. I think that when God works in simplicity.
Yeah.
So he works through love. He works through building hope in our lives, relationship, and those kind of things. So I think that death is like an intrusive thought here. And so it disturbs you. So then you look for it in places. Because Psalm 23 is not about, hey, watch out because death is coming. That's that foreboding. Mm-hmm. And death is like a main subject here. It's like when I say it's a main subject, it's become a highlighted thing of, do I see death? Where do I see death? So then in that you could look and see it everywhere. Oh, somebody died today. Every other day or every day on the news is a death of somebody, right? Some famous person. Or you start to see, oh, that person's older, or you hear about disease or sickness. And so it all can point to death. And so what you focus on grows. And so I think that, am I making sense so far?
Yeah. The thing that's jumping out to me, though, is what seems to be, and I use the word taunting, her mind and her thoughts, is all fear-based and lack of safety.
Correct. Right. Because whether the numbers mean something is not really the issue. There is a lack of internal loving safety that you're crying out for.
Yeah.
And it's creating this desperation to look for meaning in all these numbers and things. And really, in reality, what I would recommend is being in a season of learning to see yourself the way that God sees you, in his kindness, his patience, his loving welcoming, because otherwise many of our topics get distorted. They get off the rails. Right. And we can easily obsess about the end times. We can obsess about seeing the times. Oh, did you see this? See what's happening in the news? Oh, that Jesus coming back. This thing's happening, right? This thing, you better watch out. But, and I think we need to be aware of that.
I think we're going to see a lot of the stuff coming up. you're not alone in this. There's been books done, so many books done about the 11. Like a lot of people see those things and see numbers and see things. And it's almost like there's a couple different aspects to this kind of stuff. It's like there is a practical of like what your brain obsesses on or thinks on, then all of a sudden you're gonna see it everywhere. There is the aspect of off the jump, we have fear, lack of safety, all that. And then, there is we can dive into maybe what we have found in going, okay, let's look at these numbers and see what.
Yeah, it was interesting because
what does it mean for us?
We went through when we first got married and left the church that I was on staff at, and we started a whole new ministry journey together. We started to see 9/11 constantly on a regular basis. It was very, very odd. Kind of like you'd see 9/11 when you look at your watch around 9:00. It'd be that time, and you'd look at night.
It was crazy.
And we started seeing it over and over again.
Then it would be 6/11, 5/11, 4/11. Every time we looked at the clock, it was whatever number with 11 constantly.
Then over time, and your experience could be different, but for me, then we had planted a church for a season and kind of just disappeared. Didn't happen a lot.
Right, it wasn't, yeah.
And then when we ended our pastoring, closed that church, and then we went through a whole cycle of stuff that happened there. We saw 9/11. We just noticed 9/11 everywhere again.
Right.
And that was when I was like, okay, this is weird.
Right. Well, let's take a step back for a second. So the first round of all the 11s, we more kind of made a joke out of it too. Because you would go out to get gas and text me that you'd pull your phone out to get back in the car, and boom, it would say 10, 11, 12, So it kind of became a joke between you and I at first of like that we were seeing it all the time.
Right. So what did we do with that? Like, what's your perception of how do you process that? Because it happens in a time of where we're in some vulnerability and pain.
Right. Well, we were kind of, that's what I'm saying. Like the first time around, we kind of, like, what is it? We didn't take it seriously, but we were like looking at it like, okay, this is weird. But it was more, oh my gosh, we would text each other or we'd look at the clock at the same time and kind of more made it like a fun thing.
Right,
at first.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we've been exposed to a lot of different streams of Christianity where there is a segment that looks at everything obsessively as a supernatural sign. A cardinal was in my backyard.
Right.
A cardinal did this. It means that.
Right.
Now here's the interesting place that we sit. It's not like we're against that. But yet we don't advocate obsession over it.
Right. Because we've seen the abuses of it, and we've seen where maybe there are sometimes you got to pay attention to things. I feel like we have a good perspective, right?
I will say this. 100% of the time, I've never seen this so far not happen. People that obsess about symbols like this, the intensity of that looking at symbols, it equates to the level of intense pain that person
100%.
Is currently in, and they need meaning for what they're going through.
100%.
It creates this, God, tell me.
Or not even meaning of what, because I would say a lot of people aren't even self-aware enough to know that they're in pain and to know what they're going through. It then becomes self-focused of, well, if God is showing me numbers and he's showing these things, then maybe I am important. Mm-hmm. We take this as a like, oh, God's showing me something. I am important, and it's revealing that aspect of identity too.
Right, and our God image is very important because.
And can I just say this before you jump? You're not thinking this as an outward thought, but that is what's happening underneath. That's what we're bringing out. Because I know the next thing will be, because a lot of OCD, mindsets will say, well, no, I don't think that. It's like, no. I know you don't think you think that. So anyways, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make that caveat.
It's
because that's what people say. Well, I don't think that thought. No, I know you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's a lightness to this that needs to happen.
Yes.
And that will go counter to probably what you're feeling. I need serious sign, and we got to lighten this a bit because we're putting. There's a lot of weight here, but the weight. Listen to the emphasis. The emphasis is death. That is not God's emphasis. That is anti-biblical,
right?
Anti-biblical. So we got to get off the rails of where what we see as God speaking and who God is. And to be quite honest, a lot of what I read, it's going to sound funny and sarcastic, we treat God like he's Santa Claus.
Yes.
And I mean that in the song that is sung with Santa. And I don't know if for people who tune in other countries, I don't know if you have this, but we have this song, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why Santa Claus is coming to town. You're like, wait a second. That's kind of starting off a little weird. You better watch out. Like, how is that like exciting? You better not pout. It's like he's like looking, right? Santa Claus coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping.
Like, that's creepy. He's watching y'all.
He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake.
You know what? I now know what all that came from. Parents were like, we need a way. It's like the Elf on the Shelf is the new thing. If you people do Elf on the Shelf, I'm sorry. Don't send me hate mail, but like there's something wrong with you.
It's creepy.
It is so creepy. Oh my gosh. That's the new Santa. Elf on the Shelf is the new Santa.
Yeah. It is when you think through it.
Although when I used to be on social media, the funny things that people come up with to do for their Elf on the Shelf, it then becomes, I think, something fun the parents want to do.
Right.
But I'm like, can you, like, as a kid, getting up and knowing that those elf eyes are staring at you and he's like, you know, been drinking, like they'll set him up drinking coffee or, you know, the stuff they come up with is so clever. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent, but it's creepy anyway. Yeah.
And I think that we have to laugh for a minute and be like, yeah, God's not Santa Claus. You know, where he's like two things. There's this, like, he's watching and he's creating these riddles. These riddles we got to figure out and
right. Well, it's mental torment because how people are displaying that God is like only show. It's kind of like when you watch those people that, what do they say? Like read your, what are those people? Are they called the psychics? Remember that guy, John something, they would go to it's like he was a prophet, but it was in
right. Like a clairvoyant or,
yes. And they'll only say like, I see the color blue. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that was my mother's favorite color. It's like, if you know, just say it. Like we make all this stuff like God loves to play games with us or something. It's like torture.
Right. And it doesn't mean that there isn't mysteries. Of course there's mysteries, but I think we want certainty. So let me figure it out. And my concern is we skip the basics and then we're hurting mental health.
Yeah.
The basics are, we never graduate from the basics. We never graduate from the fundamentals of being loved, God's grace, his goodness towards us, relationship building, sonship, learning to overcome, learning to persevere, just day by day, building character, learning, like those things there is no other subject. You know, we obsess about subjects that distract us from what we really need to look at. And this subject here is distracting you from what's really going on. And I had to realize in my mental health journey, what is this thought producing in my life? Making me more fearful, more depressed, more anxious, less loving, more rigid, more angry? Then I need to invite God to renew the thoughts that I'm holding on to. Because from a biblical standpoint, David in Psalm 23 says, though I walk, you give me the worst case scenario, the valley of the shadow of death. We have to finish the sentence. I will fear no evil because you are with me. So
that's the part that needs to be paid attention to, because all of this is just the fruit of this is mental torment.
Correct. So death needs to be put into its place.
Right.
It's not center stage. It needs to be put into its place. And that's why I talked about OCD, because the techniques or the protocols of working through OCD is, first of all, taking a deep breath and lightening your thought world, because your subjects become intensified in certain areas and they don't need to be. Lightening and being kind. Lighten this. Be kind and let it float through. This is not the main subject. The main subject is faith, hope, and love. what Jesus did for me. God is with me, and I'm needing some healing in what it means to be loved, and I need areas of my life comforted with his loving presence, not solving certain questions. And we look at God comforting us as like, yeah, God, can you tell me this? Tell me this, tell me this, tell me this, give me an answer. And God goes, just sit with me. Yeah, but what about, just sit with me? And that's why we're frustrated and we feel like we're not hearing from God, because God's just saying, just sit with me. Then we sit with him and we go, this is torture. Here we go. Our God image needs healing of how we see God. And that's, anyway, that's, but going back to our story there, when the 9/11 repeated again, I remember we were getting some counsel and some feedback, and it just dawned on us. It was like a simple thing of like 9/11 in the sense that we had gone through some trauma.
Correct.
And we need to give that some space to work through. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because we didn't make room for trauma in our life as much as we should have. We're like, oh, we've worked through that. We're okay. And then we realized, no, we have some damage that we need to work through.
Yeah, we had more of a mentality in a lot of ways. We paid attention to emotional health, certainly, but nowhere near how we look at things today. We took everything so seriously. And I'm meaning that in the sense of like, okay, it is what it is, like looking at and then we have to soldier on and being serious. It's just serious about everything and not really allowing ourselves the grace and love over situations.
Yeah. And I notice for me, that's a gauge when I'm taking myself too seriously. That is a gauge that things are going to go in an intensified way, and I'm not going to be empowered in what I need. And we had to learn though in that time, like, yes, that it almost like one day we were like, duh, that's what that meant, at least for us. And it I find just kind of reinforced what we were already learning. When the sign becomes like the thing, I saw this symbol, and so then I followed it. It can be concerning, as far as overall, mental health. I know the wise men followed a star. I get that, right? There's room for signs and symbols, but I think that I don't advocate for that to be your main thing of a number. 11, we saw that 11 thing, and there's interpretations of what that could mean, and then that can be another distraction of diving into what the 11 means. It does kind of signal like it's time for new. It's time for like to step into the new of who you are and those kind of things that people could interpret. Could that be true? Certainly. But then you take a deep dive into that, and now you're distracted from just building relationship with God.
That's what I was going to say. All this stuff does is distract from what really the main focus is relationship. And I can imagine that this battle is doing that. It's preventing from relationship. So do you want to go and...
Yeah, I was just going to say,
all right.
I'm constantly praying against these things all day, every day, to rebuke them, cancel them, reject them, ask God to heal me, to bless me with a long life, a hedge of protection. I pray Psalm 91. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. You're
And I would ask this person too, like, do you think God didn't hear you the first time? This is revealing to me the fact that you're like trying to convince God that he's not, this is revealing to me you don't either A, think he's with you, he's hearing you. You don't need to be doing these things all day.
Right. But I've done that. I've done what I call spiritual calisthenics.
Yes.
Which is like, what I mean is like, I'm doing jumping jacks. I don't know if this works. Okay, I'm going to do push-ups. Okay, I'm going to do pull-ups. Okay, I'm going to run in place. It's almost like you take things and throw them against the wall and see what sticks. And that's not building relationship. It's treating God more like, let me pull the lever and try to figure out what's going to get your attention.
Right. And whatever you give attention to grows. And
then it goes back to the brokenness of our childhood of how we felt loved and what we did to get attention, what we did to get, not just get attention, get like a noticing. Do you see me? And I get a sense here as I'm feeling through this, there's a need of, do you see me? That is in the root system here? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, this is all exhausting what you're writing here. This is not like you and in Christianity, we can encourage, get fast and get pray. And it's, you notice the weight's on you to try to like get God's attention. And I want to encourage our listeners that we need to shift our posture to learning to receive God's grace and relax and come into the more peaceful relational place versus this intensified, very like I got to convince God. Yeah. And so you pray for health and safety, you pray for me and for my daughter. I'm exhausted. So that right there is, I pay attention to that. You saying you're exhausted, right? Because when I find myself in a spiritual, routine of some kind, and I feel myself exhausted, it's a signal to me that I need to make a shift.
Yeah, sorry. Our kids were texting me.
Oh.
I just had to see what happened. Sorry.
No problem. But I'll just say that again. When you're in your routine and you're exhausted, it's a sign that there is a pressure, there's fear, there's stress that needs nurturing. That like my feedback to you is learning to rest in being loved. It's okay that you're struggling right now.
Right.
What you need is love.
That's actually really.
So you were given feedback of Romans 8. Romans 8 is all about the no condemnation love of the Father that is available for us as sons and daughters.
So kudos to your pastor, because that's what you need.
Yeah, and then
Right.
my life was changed with Romans 8, 14, 15. That doesn't mean it's going to happen that same way for you. But for me, it is written on my wedding ring, Romans 8, 15. God's not given us a spirit of bondage again to fear, but adoption by which we cry out, Abba, Father. And Paul ends Romans 8 with, I am convinced nothing will separate me from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. He says we're more than conquerors. Nor height nor depth, nothing's. It built in him a strength and a confidence. And that's what that whole Romans 8 is love. And then actually it brings out the suffering that we face in life, the hardship, the resistance, and that tension of the greater glory that we're waiting for, right? And how is it brought out? It starts with no condemnation, it dives into love, and it ends with love, that whole chapter. So that's where you're at. Your journey is not figuring out death.
Yeah.
It's actually learning to not be afraid of death. And how do we learn that? We learn in the love of the Father that he has for us, that he's got us, that no matter what we face, he's with us. We teach our kids, and one of the cues that I've taught them is when they pray to say, Father, thank you that you hear me. It's just a little sentence that I taught them to say, this is kind of your ramp, because I know that there's two battles Christians have. One is actually praying to the Father and feeling connected to the Father. And two is having a sense that God even hears you. Mm-hmm. So if I pray and I go, forget it, he doesn't hear me, it's going to make me quit or pray louder, harder, longer. And if I say to you, Melissa, and you're not paying attention, you're on your phone, and I have to call your name again, right?
It happens.
I have to try harder, right? But if I say your name and I'm confident that you heard me, what am I going to do? I'll carry on with the next statement.
Right. You have confidence in how we're connected. Exactly.
And I think that, Jesus said in our prayers, beware of the repetitious prayers. And I wonder that in our longing for God to move, if we're just repeating things rather than praying and then just learning to align ourselves with God. You're at work and I give this subject to you and I pray for this. And I'm building my faith and knowing that you're working. And I have unbelief, but you're working through that in my life. Mm-hmm. So I'm exhausted. It's all day, every day. And I keep seeing these signs and don't know what more to do. So when you see these signs, just let them float on by in your thoughts. Let them float on by. Let the Holy Spirit, Bob Ross, just go, it's all right. Put a cloud right there. We're just going to take that cloud wherever you want to put that cloud.
Right.
We need to take these, they're not center stage. Death, 23, 11, 9, 11, 4, 11, 14, 09, 17, 22, 14, 92, whatever.
Right.
They could, certainly. I mean, God has seasons, timings, years, numbers. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's not center stage. Jesus Christ is center stage. His grace, the Father's love towards you, the comfort of the Holy Spirit, faith, hope, and love. That's center stage. So we have to allow these subjects to slowly lower the volume. That's why I advocate the pathway and how I encourage people with OCD issues to practice, because I think every Christian can benefit from it. It creates a more loving environment inside your thinking so that you can be still, because Psalm 91 is not an aggressive, it is a resting psalm. You know, when you're in the secret place of the Most High. Do you have any other things you want to add to that?
I do. So for some reason, this just keeps jumping out at me. So I pray Psalm 91 for health and safety for me and my daughter. But up here you say that you're married. So you don't mention husband again throughout the whole thing. So if I was in a session with this person, I would ask what's going on also in that relationship.
Yeah.
With safety, with connectivity.
Yeah, you and your husband getting on the same page and
right.
and working through this together, and both learning to love, to create safety with each other, and encouraging one another to take your peace.
Yeah, because I would say this, and this isn't, I don't know your husband, I don't know anything. He could be praying over you every day, I don't know. But a warning sign when we usually meet with women that have massive struggles, fear struggles, a lot of things, that is an aspect, if you're married, that we have to tackle on what's going on in the marriage, because that is what's over the home. So
yeah, because if you were going through this,
in this kind, if you were,
me.
Sorry,
I mean, you, me, you, if you were going through this,
oh my,
who's on first?
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
Okay, wait. All right, focus.
Okay.
So if you were going through this, what she's writing here,
what would you do for me?
Well, I would play a big role in that. No,
Yes.
I'm not your fixer.
No.
So it's not about me fixing, but it's about taking these subjects, this death, this disease. They do appear to be like intrusive, obsessive thoughts. All signs point to that. It's letting them in our conversation. It's all right. You can let that pass through. That's not something you need to focus on. And
right, there's an authority that you bring over me that releases me. And when you love me, and even just give that of, it's okay, we're going to figure this out. It's okay.
Yep.
Let the
me being confident.
Yes. And how you approach me about it heals me in way, which we should do a whole podcast on that. But, because I mentioned this when we did the episode on healing the woman's heart, which I would, recommend. Even though that was about giving birth, we do talk about a lot of things in there.
Yeah.
In regards to a woman's heart, is that I would not be where I'm at in my journey. And yes, I have a responsibility, and I still have to work very hard in my relationships and with you, with God, with myself. But because of how you have chosen to pursue your own health and how you look over the home, your own heart, your relationship with God and me, it has healed me in ways that I would not be where I'm at.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well,
I don't say all that because I'm not trying, we don't say all that to condemn. Mark and I we want to like raise up a higher level of how we're looking at things, because it's not about the numbers. What's going on here, it's not about the thing you think it's about. And we always want to take it and go a little bit deeper, because this torment that you're in all day is, I know, not allowing you to be in healthy relationship with those around you. So we got to look at all that. What's going on?
Good point.
It's not about the numbers. It's not.
Yep. So, yeah, and your husband, a husband, could be pulled into dissecting death. Oh, you have a spirit of death on you. Oh, there's something we need to pray off. And then we become very superstitious. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of spiritual warfare concepts that promote superstition. The sign, the symbol, this thing. Oh, I better watch out. And I get very concerned about it because it creates a superstitious life versus a faith, hope, and love life, which is I'm learning to rest in his love, take one step, and learning to let my perspective be empowered. So anyway, so let's continue. Unless you have anything else.
No, okay. Go ahead.
I have begged God to show me a sign. So I want I want to encourage you, stop begging. No more begging. That's your homework assignment. No more begging.
Right.
No more praying 900 times a day. No more begging. I feel like I'm one of the only ministers that tells people to stop praying.
Well, you're not telling them to stop praying. You're telling them to stop begging.
Right. Or I'm like, no, don't fast.
Right. I don't. We're trying. Well, because
I'm getting to the motive.
You're getting to the heart of it, right?
And it sounds like I'm not being spiritual, but I actually am. I'm being more spiritual than you realize.
Right. It's true.
We don't beg. That it is unscriptural in the new covenant of Christ Jesus to beg, because begging means he's not listening. It means desperation that our Father's not here.
Which is what our earthly fathers did.
Right.
We keep treating God like our earthly fathers.
So I encourage this prayer. Instead of begging him to show you a sign, say, Father, I'm not going to beg. I trust that you're here, even though I'm struggling to feel that. I'm going to rest in that you're here, you're with me. I don't get it. I don't understand all these things. And I'm going to release myself from trying to figure it out. Because it is pointless to chase symbols, signs, and things when our hearts need deeper love. Christianity is notorious for going into all these subjects, skipping past love. Yeah. No, your heart is broken. Your heart needs love right now. So, because listen what the sense says. Show me a sign to speak with me, to let me know I'm going to be okay. Right? There's that longing for peace and that longing for relief, and I get nothing. Yes, because when you go, God, please, I need you right now. When we do that, God is if we want that, like we want God to like walk in the room, like shake the building, to prove that He's with us. Right?
That's true.
And it shows our broken lens and how we see God. This is a faith thing. God's not going to walk into your room and go, I'm here. This is a faith thing. So what we're cultivating here is learning to tune our senses in faith. Your love is here. But you have to give room for process. I'm struggling to connect to that. And that's okay. I'm on my journey. Okay? So I just get horrifying signs right away, and I feel confirmed the opposite, and it terrifies me. That's because of the meaning you give the signs. Remember, when I talk about thoughts, it's not the thought, it's the emotion and the interpretation that affects us. So I'm saying to you, Psalm 23 is not an interpretation of death looming over you. That's not the heart of Psalm 23 at all. It is empowerment of His comfort with you, that He is with you through whatever you're going through. And that's the journey of what this is bringing out. So anyway, we'll lay on this. I can't face my fear to make it go away. I can't read the word and have faith because there's no promise that if I pray this, that I will be okay.
I'm trying to understand. I can't face my fear to make it go away. What is the fear?
Death. I'm assuming death and sickness.
But how do you? I'm confused.
I think what she's saying is like, well, I can't just like face death, But
okay. It's not like she could. Okay.
But I think you can face it when the thought appears, because that's what really facing it means. When the thought appears, it's like, I don't have to run. I don't have to hide. This thought can just float on by because God is with me and His love is greater than everything. Now, I will have to say this, and I say this in kindness. These sentences are filled with distortions. Right. So I can't read the word and have faith. So that like just shuts you down.
Yeah.
It's a very black and white. I can't read the word and have faith. It's like, that's disempowering you. That you're saying it's either all or nothing. God, you have to show up,
right,
or forget it.
Well, then, right, even towards the end when she says, I don't feel like God has given me any positive, encouraging, hopeful signs.
And that's not true either.
That's not true.
Because the whole New Testament is filled with who He is. I looked up coincidences and Christianity, and it says nothing is a coincidence. So you're following a compulsion to research the topic, but you're not focusing on what you really need. That's what OCD is. It is the great distractor. focus on this subject. Am I really saved? Did I commit the unpardonable sin? Do I need to, whatever it is? And we research the topic and notice it doesn't help. And so if you look up coincidences in Christianity, of course, you're going to have all kinds of varied perspectives and nuances. So it says, I'm assuming a website you read or something, and nothing is a coincidence because God is sovereign over everything, and that the devil can't read your mind. So those signs I'm seeing are from God means something. There's massive distortions in this. And I encourage a reset in who God is as a loving Father. That's the problem. And I guarantee you, me just saying that is kicking up stuff in you. And it reveals that's the issue. It's his goodness. We're in a war of not experiencing and not being connected to the goodness and love of the Father. And that is the heart of the gospel. Good news from a good God who loves you. That's it. And I'm advocating to the church, there is no other subject. We must get bathed in that. And that is a key for mental health, emotional health, everything else. So anyways, I know I'm repeating myself, but I can't emphasize this enough. Mm-hmm. So in these statements, it's the problem's not the problem, but they are revealing a lot of distortions. And what happens is when we start off with a distortion, we ask questions we don't need to ask. Okay, so what I mean by is this. I feel God is not here.
Right.
There's a distortion. God, why'd you leave me?
Right.
We don't hear an answer. Because God doesn't lie and can't lie, nor does he live in lies.
Right. Well, I keep reading her last sentence. If I don't pray protection over us, we don't get accident, and I have to pray protection over us so that we don't accidentally get cursed.
Yeah, and there's the, like where I talk my analogy about like losing your keys, where I lose my keys, like where are my keys? I lose my keys every day. And we treat even like blessings and cursings like it's like we're losing our keys. Oh, I got cursed. And I stumbled, I was walking down the sidewalk and I tripped. Oh, I'm cursed now. And that again falls in line with superstition. It's not in line with God. But let me go back to what I was saying.
Sorry.
Did that make sense when I was saying you start off with a distortion? God is not here. That's a very common distortion because it's not true. But God is spirit, so you don't see him with your five physical senses. And we want it to like override. We want God to override our choice, our will, our decision. We want him to override our senses and just take over in these desperations. He doesn't, because he works father to son, sonship. Okay, father to daughter, and that's a whole subject in itself. Anyway, God is not here, so that's the distortion. Then you ask a question out of that. God, why'd you leave me? So the enemy loves that. Mm-hmm. Oh, he left you because you don't read the Bible enough. He left you because you're cursed. He left you because and then we're like, God, where are you? And then we feel lost. And then we're like, we're on this whole path down over here. Mm-hmm. And God's saying, I never left. Right?
We're treating him like a wicked stepfather.
Yeah. So if I woke up in the morning and I had a thought, my wife hates me. Mm-hmm. And I walked up to you and I said, why do you hate me?
Right. I would be like, what?
Because the initial premise, you don't hate me. But then I keep going. Because the other day when you were doing this, like, you got to explain to me why you hate me. And it sounds silly, but this is actually how the world operates. Mm-hmm. This is actually how the news operates, how people, they start with a distortion and a lie, and then they're asking questions and having conversations based on an initial premise that isn't true.
Right.
So I just feel like giving up in life. What's the point in having any hope or ambition or plans for anything if God won't give me any hope for the future? Mm-hmm. I want to encourage you and all our listeners. It's not about like God isn't going to like take hope and stick it inside of your heart and make it happen for you. Our belief system, we have to start choosing what we're going to focus on. And I'm going to encourage that gentle refocusing off of 23, 9/11, 11/11, death, sickness, disease, and into God is with me and I'm learning how to be loved. And even if you can't connect to that, look at yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to start being kind to myself because I'm struggling and what I need is love right now. Because all these reactions are unloving. They're unloving to you. They're unloving to your journey. They're anti-love. They're harsh. They're just fueling more pressure and more discouragement. I've watched a lot of Derek Prince, and I was really into it and seemed so real. But when I started doing the prayers over and over again, and nothing was happening. So the prayers over and over again. Let's take a break from that.
Right.
And then I prayed and nothing happened. We can never say that.
Right.
That is always inaccurate. I'm going to sit on that for a second. Saying I prayed and nothing happened is always inaccurate. None of us know
What is it? Right.
what our prayers have actually done. We don't. You have no idea what you prayed, what it could have done for someone else,
right.
what it could have shaken over your family, but you didn't see it. Remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for. The evidence is not seen. We want the evidence. What I prayed for happening right now, nothing happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Your prayers aren't wasted. The prayers that go to heaven are not wasted. Now, what I want to do is I want to help you and encourage this exhaustion so that you're not just using all this energy to try to convince God. I'm going to encourage a different posture. So anyways, I got discouraged. It made me extremely scared and paranoid of everything I think or say and what other people say, and even the words that are being said on TV or in a song. I have to pray protection over us so that we don't, that's the thing you read, accidentally get cursed. Please, can I have your opinion about dream interpretation, numbers, and coincidences? Did I give my opinion?
I think you did.
Did you give yours?
I believe so.
So we're just going to encourage a much different posture.
Yeah.
I think that there's areas in your heart that have deep discouragement, have some emptiness. Those things, your healing doesn't come through answering all the questions. No. And that's what we think. Something happens. God, what was the reason for that? I need the reason. Why? That's not what healing offers.
No.
Healing is, I am near. God is near. He's with us. And so I'd actually recommend as a reference, God loves me and I love myself, because I want to encourage you to have a better relationship with yourself. It's a lot of hostility, a lot of tension, a lot of pressure. And I want to just encourage a releasing of that pressure on you. You're going through something, has nothing to do with a riddle that you need to solve.
Right.
It's all healing goes back to the fundamentals, goes back to the simplicity, learning to be loved, learning to process love.
It's not about the numbers. It's not about what you think it is.
Yeah. So anyway, if this has been a blessing to your life and journey, please feel free to donate and support. You can get our resources and books and materials. We just love being a blessing to your life. Any other things that you want to say as we close?
I don't think so.
All right.
I think we wrapped it up with a nice little bow.
I think we solved every problem that is here. And most of all, we pray that you just experience a sense of graciousness and love throughout this. And that's what we want. So we're doing our best to give you some feedback and encouragement for your life and journey. But that's it. That's all we have for today.
Thank you, everyone.
We're out.